Welcome to Buffalo Game Day Recap. I'm Thad Brown along with AJ Feldman. I am here in Orchard Park where it's listed at like 10 degrees. It feels like a million below. This will be a short version of Buffalo Game Day Recap because I'm told that there's a limit to what I can last out here in the cold. We will actually push that limit and see how much fun football conversation we can get out of these chattering lips. Now, I did sit in the press box all day, so I really shouldn't be complaining, but it is really, really cold. AJ, let's talk some football. Since you don't have to worry about the cold. Here's where I sit on this game. The Bills talked afterward, Josh Allen in particular, about how they're kind of in between right now. Josh Allen said, we don't know how much we want to show, how much we want to worry about, pushing, and how much we want to hide for the playoffs. Sean McDermott talked about how with the guys who are injured, and they had 7 questionable players, there were discussion with the trainers. How much do we push? How much do we, want to protect these guys? The Bills right now are in a weird spot in that the 1 seed is kind of still a little bit a possibility, but not really. And they're in really good shape to protect the 2. So you don't know how hard do we chase a win? How hard do we save for the playoffs? And you saw the result. When you're not focused in the NFL 100% on getting a W, or actually know what your focus should be for, 100% of the way, you're going to get pushed even by a team that's 3-11. And, the other factor here was this was the division team that probably knows them a little better than most other opponents know this Bills team. So to me, that's why this game was a 3-point squeaker and not the big blowout that Vegas said it would be.
Yeah, all of that valid points. They're definitely in this purgatory, like you mentioned, trying to get to the 1 seed or, holding down the 2. And that both, explains some of the problems on offense, explains, some of the guys being hurt on defense. But I think there's definitely some reasons for at least some concern, some little red flags. I mean, those first 2 drives from the Patriots were not impressive by the Bills defense. That second drive, 16 plays, 91 yards, nearly 10 minutes, ends with a touchdown, a lot of third down conversions. That was not a high point for a Bills defense that is, obviously by the points they've given up in the last 2 weeks, looks really bad the last 2 weeks. They did eventually turn around. It was eventually kind of the catalyst for this. They get the interception when they needed it. They're able to fall on the touchdown. So the defense definitely turned things around, but certainly that first half is concerning. And then, we kind of buried it off the top as well. Josh Allen suffers another, funny bone injury. He may be the most funny bone injuries of an NFL player in one season, certainly for sure, which it doesn't seem like it's going to be a big deal going forward. It's in the rear view mirror, but it certainly highlights just how safe, conservative you want to be with Josh Allen going forward as you try and potentially rest him for the, some of the final 2 weeks as they go for the playoffs.
I think Josh Allen is the single good example about the bigger point in that, there's no one that you have to worry about keeping healthy for the playoffs more than number 17, but there's also no one who's more likely to help you squeak through or get through these 2 games should you need to win them. That's why, if we wanted to go big picture here a little bit, I think the Bills want the Chiefs to win on Wednesday. I know that would take the 1 seed away, but at least then you know where you stand. You know you're going to be the 2 seed. You might not even need to win a game, and if you do, you just need to win 1 to lock up the 2 seed. Then you go and win your game on Sunday against the Jets right back here in Orchard Park, and then you spend week 18 using it as a bye, get guys healthy, and you move forward as opposed to being in between because the Patriots and Jets aren't much different in terms of record wise, but the Jets have a whole lot more talent. And if you show up not ready to play against that team, and if they show up, with their head focused and not between, they're not stuck up their backside like it's been most of the year, then you might, actually suffer a loss. But let's back away from that a little bit. I want to go back to what you talked about in terms of some of the things that are concerning from this defense. And the 2 that stick out to me, number 1, it was about getting off on third down. And that's what, or getting off the field on third down, I should say. And that's what a lot of the guys in the locker room talked about is the problem. They just could not get off the field on third. They had a bunch of third and longs. There were Drake May scrambles. It seemed like Hunter Henry or another tight end was open all the time on third and long. To me, that part of it, I think in large part was about the guys who played and the guys who didn't play. You were missing 3 starters in the secondary, Rasul Douglas, both safeties. Matt Milano didn't play. Not that he's been a huge part, but again, he's the guy you want to have on the field. So I think the injuries were the big part of that to me. Number 2, something that I wanted to see in this game was how does Ed Oliver follow up the huge performance he had against Detroit? AJ, can you confirm that Ed Oliver played in the game? Because I didn't really notice him at all. And look up his numbers. Since I can't look up anything, my hands are stuck in my pockets right now.
One tackle and one QB hits for Mr. Ed Oliver.
Yeah. So that to me was part two of maybe not the whole reason. I don't want to put all on 91, but you wanted to see Ed Oliver follow up 10 quarterback pressures with something commensurate, and it didn't happen. We saw Ed Oliver from before the Detroit game, which was, not very involved on the field, but not making many impact plays. And again, it's not just his fault, but if you have to depend on Greg Rousseau and Von Miller occasionally to provide the entirety of your quarterback pressure, then you're going to have trouble getting off the field on third down, especially when you're playing a lot of backups in the back seven. So to me, that's where the issues were on defense primarily.
Yeah, the defense only registers one sack. They get 4 quarterback hits, 3 from the defensive linemen. And this is a Patriots offensive line, which by just about every single metric is the worst in the NFL. They did have some pressure. Drake may move around a little bit, but certainly not the performance you want to see from your front four. I think that's one of the biggest concerns going forward is this inconsistent defensive line that we've seen throughout the season. They have their high points. They disappear for long periods of time. This was really a matchup where they should have been licking their chops, especially, second half, they start, really trying to pass the ball more to try and come back from this 10-point deficit. And the front four was not the game breaker that it should have been to help out the Bills from their hole and turn things around.
The one sack, by the way, was just Austin Johnson escorting Drake May out of bounds as he scrambled out of the pocket. It's technically a sack by NFL rules, but didn't look like a sack that anybody's ever seen before. I will say this for the defense, though. As much as we are, critical of the way they started, they did turn it around. After giving up the 14 points, they scored as many points as they let up for 3 quarters of this game, which is an incredible performance. I don't care how bad the offense is on the other side. And the guys who forced turnovers, it wasn't the same thing over and over. It was Cam Lewis. I thought the throw by Drake May there was terrible, but Cam Lewis makes a heck of a play to get the interception. Then it's Taron Johnson. I don't know if this is in order, but it's Taron Johnson and Greg Rousseau on the fumble touchdown, which obviously the Patriots had a lot of assistance on that play, but still the Bills finished that one off. And then you also had, the Terrell Bernard forced fumble, Dorian Williams recovers. So different bodies all over, different guys contributing to all those turnovers that, really were the reasons the Bills shut down this Patriots offense in the second half, because New England kept on moving. I think they punted it, twice in the game? And one was the fourth quarter one, which, we'll talk about some strategy later on where I really thought the Patriots should not have punted. So, even though the defense struggled early and long term we'll want to see more from this defensive line, they made enough plays, more than enough plays to get this W.
Yeah, it was 3 punts on the day, and we can get into that now if you want to, because 2 of them were in the first half in their own territory, but 4th and 1, they punt both times. The second one was a 4th and 6, just about at midfield, a fourth quarter punt, and that was a pretty inexcusable punt, in my opinion. They're down 2 scores. They didn't have enough time to eventually get the ball back. They only got the ball back one entire time, so clearly they needed more possessions, and 4th and 5 at their own 46 is screaming for you to go at it, and Gerard Mayo decides to punt the ball.
Yeah, the Gerard Mayo strategy confounding discussion of the day is where we're at right now. And it wasn't just that he did not go for it on 4th and 1 early where they punted the ball away, and I had a problem with that. I put that on X. And the one you bring up is inexcusable. 8.5 minutes to go, 4th and 5, you're down 2 scores. What are you expecting the game plan to be? You're going to get a stop, get a score, get another stop, and then get another score. That's what you're going to do in 8.5 minutes on the road against a team that, is battling for a 1 seed. It's not the right play at all. But it's not only that, it wasn't consistent. This is the same guy that faked a punt on 4th and 2 from his own 25-yard line, but he won't go for it from 4th and 6 near midfield with the game basically on the line. I didn't understand that. If you're going to be 3-11 and you want to throw caution in the wind with fake punts on your own 25, I'm down with that. That's great. That's awesome. But, play it that way all the time. Don't just do it once in a while. What are you going to trick the other team? I mean, this is not how you win football games in 2024 in the NFL. And, the Bills were in part the beneficiary. I don't know if, going for it and 4th down would have made it better, but it just was nonsensical all day long. And, the other thing I want to talk about with, when the Patriots had the ball, I thought Drake May played pretty well. I was really impressed with the way he, operated the offense in this game. The interception was terrible. It was screams out rookie inexperience bad. I mean, everything, they're going to go in the film room and be like, dude, you can't do this. But first drive of the game, 3rd down, he gets a blitz right in his face. 2 linebackers coming through the same gap, stares at it, throws over it for a first down to Hunter Henry. 3 plays later, drops another third down throw in the bucket. Good coverage by Kyer Elam. He still gets it in there to Keyshawn Butte. And then in the second half, he had the one where he's rolling out to his right, throws back across his body to Butte over the middle. That's a really good throw. I thought he did if I'm the Patriots, I'm super encouraged with what Macon, can bring. And, Bills fans, I wouldn't say be worried, but I think this guy has the potential, if they can build around him, to be a real headache in this division.
Yeah, and to kind of build on both of your points you made just there, at 3-11, now 3-12, you're really just trying to, get your quarterback reps, figure things out, etc. He got a great, experience driving down the field, trying to score a 2-minute drill, etc. Late to score that touchdown. Giving your guy a 4th and 5 situation in midfield to try and make a play, that's another great situation I want my rookie quarterback in. So not only is it bad decision making just in general, but for what you're trying to do right now in week 15 or whatever of the season, it just doesn't add up.
Could not agree more with that last point. If you want to educate your guy, give him chances to educate, and you're not going to do anything to help his growth by watching you send the punter out on 4th and 6. All right, a couple of things on the defense, by the way. Kyer Elam, bit of a rough day with the penalties. I thought the coverage he had on the touchdown was really good, but not ideal. Cam Lewis, who made the interception, he also had the back-to-back rough plays on the second Patriots touchdown. But I think all in all, this was a decent day, for the Bills secondary players who, a lot of the guys in the locker room talked about how once they kind of settled down, they felt a lot better about, how the game was going. And it wasn't like they needed to, Cole Bishop's like, look, this is how a game works. You start out, you're up, then you get into the game, you settle down. They were better in the second part of this game. Now, when the Bills had the ball on offense, I think number one, this was probably something that was going to happen. They were not going to go the whole year scoring 30 points every week. You're going to have a down week, and maybe in the cold, it makes a difference. The concern I have from this game offensively is that there were a number of plays where the Patriots defensive backs were just flat out better than the Bills receivers. There were not players open. There were not options for Josh Allen to throw. And there were a number of snaps in this game where Allen drops back, scrambles, tries to make things up. The passing game in this game largely had to be Josh Allen hero ball. And look, the New England strength of their defense, if you want to really call anything on that defense a strength, is the secondary. But this is where the Bills were early in the season, why they made the trade for Amari Cooper to begin with. And we saw this crop up again today against New England, where guys could not separate, could not get open, and could not make plays without Josh Allen hero balling it to them.
Yeah, it seemed like the majority of the plays, it was like you mentioned, he drops back. There's nothing. There's really not a lot of pressure, but he just eventually the pocket breaks down because, it happens. You only get so many seconds to pass, and then he's got to roll out right and try and make things happen. And it was interesting that the Bills still went so much with the passing game in the first half when it wasn't working. I mean, James Cook, he had the touchdown run. I believe he only had one other carry the entire first half. They come out in the second half. I think Sean McDermott maybe had a pointed message towards Joe Brady, certainly. 4 of their first 5 plays were James Cook runs. Another one, the completion of Keon Coleman. So, the passing game really wasn't clicking. Amari Cooper, another quiet day. It's great and all that he's not, throwing temper tantrums when he's not getting involved. But you traded this guy, you gave away some draft capital, and he's got 1 reception for 10 yards over the last 2 weeks. Last game, it was fine. They scored 48 points. You're not going to complain about that. This week, your passing game needs more work when your leading receiver yards wise was James Cook, your running back, with 26 yards.
It's not that the receivers are incapable of producing, or this offense is incapable. Obviously, it's been great all season long, all those 30-point games in a row. The concern I have, though, is that if this can crop up in a home game against New England, where you just have a day where your receivers can't do anything, how are you going to play 3 straight games in the playoffs, which increasingly looks like what it's going to take for the Bills to make the Super Bowl, without this happening again? Are you going to depend on your defense that gave up 40 points essentially the last 2 weeks to save you? Are you going to depend on your run game to save you? And look, I'm going to get to the run game in a second. I think it's very good, but I get worried about whether or not these receivers can make enough plays on their own. Carl Jones and I talk about it on Let's Talk Ball. You have the scheme, and that works in a lot of cases. And Joe Brady's done a really good job scheming these guys open. But can these guys play above the scheme? Amari Cooper should be. We haven't seen it much. Khalil Shakir has his moments. Keon Coleman occasionally. But for the most part, these guys don't play above the scheme. And in this game, I'm assuming I'm going to go back and look on the film and say, wow, New England did a good job scheming it up, which happens. But if you are stuck once that happens, I don't know if you make the Super Bowl doing that.
And you talk about scheme, they're probably going to have to go through the Chiefs at some point at Arrowhead. Steve Spagnuolo, maybe the best defensive coordinator in the league. He's going to be able to certainly go toe for toe with you on scheme. So you're going to have to win on ability. And I don't know, it remains to be seen if they're going to be able to do that, especially the last 2 weeks. Their offense basically had to score every single possession. You need your defense to get some stops, but if the defense is struggling like they have in the past 3 weeks, and then the offense can even goes 2 possessions without scoring even a field goal, now you're in a world of hurt in a playoff game against a good team where, you're not facing against the Patriots where you can, screw around for a little bit in the first half.
Give Josh Allen some credit for gutting through this injury. We talked about it a little earlier that it was a funny bone injury, according to Josh Allen. I don't know if funny bone is really the actual medical diagnosis, but regardless, a bone bruise, and certainly there was an issue because the first throw after the injury was not anything like what a healthy throw looks like with Josh Allen. So he found a way. And, when the passing game wasn't working in this game, like you said, and I think, you brought up why did the Bills not run with James Cook? If I remember correctly, they get the James Cook touchdown. Then the next drive is the drive where they run the fake punt. So they burn like 6 minutes off the clock. By the time the Bills get it back, there's 2 minutes to go. And the 2 minute drive is Ty Johnson always. Like he's the guy that always gets the end of the half drives.
There was one drive in between where Allen ended up throwing the interception. There was one drive in between there.
All right. Well, then no excuse on that one. But regardless, the thing I want to talk about with this run game is that the Bills' run game for the last couple years has been pretty consistently successful. But the last few weeks, we've seen it become much more explosive. And we've talked about this at times during the year, but this is now 2 weeks in a row that James Cook has ripped off a 40-yard touchdown run. You go back to the Niners game where he had a 65-yarder. So this is now 3 or 4 games where you get that one punch, running touchdown. And, the guys talked about the impact afterward. It makes things easier. It gives you a jolt of energy. There's so much benefit from this. And this is a credit to Cook, who's been a much tougher, much smarter, much more explosive runner this year. I think much more confident too. And this offensive line, which continues to, win all the time, create space. The Joe Brady run scheme has been pretty solid most of the year, but I give credit to the guys up front. I mean, these guys know how to, take advantage of lighter boxes. They, know how to, use leverage appropriately as any offensive lineman would. They've been very good this year, and it's an underrated reason why this Bills offense keeps going because today was a good example. The passing game, they just didn't have it. The run game saved this Buffalo Bills team.
Yeah, when the run game can both get 4 or 5 yards of carry, chew out time, chew out clock, get first downs, but they can also provide that big play action where it doesn't have to be every single time Josh Allen, with that quick strike offense. Certainly, a big plus to the offense to being able to have that in their bag.
All right, so next up for the Bills, a home game with the Jets next week. It's going to be, a lot of the same storylines, a lot of the same ideas, a little different, a lot more well-known players on the other side. It won't be Kayshon Boutte and Demario Douglas at receiver. It'll be guys like Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson, who's been on everybody's fantasy team all year. So, a little different discussion. I think the Bills will be a little more focused for this game. I really thought they'd be focused for today because you feel like 2 weeks ago against the Rams, they got their lesson on what happens when you don't show up focused. I was wrong, I think in part because the Bills are kind of unsure about what they're doing. And let me go back to, what's going to happen this week before the Bills even play, which is Wednesday. So A, if the Chiefs win, that takes the 1 seed out of play. And then B, if the Chiefs win, that means the Steelers have to lose. If the Ravens also happen to lose, now you've locked up the 2 seed. To me, that is the most ideal scenario for the Bills. I don't even want a shot at the 1 seed. I don't want a chance of potentially Kansas City losing against Pittsburgh and Denver the final week of the season because Denver might not need the game. So, and I just want to throw that at you. Is that kind of the logic that you would go to if you're looking at this from a Bills point of view?
I think I'd still like the 1 seed, but certainly it seems unlikely at this point. They do get a nice benefit from the schedule that they're going to know what happens on Wednesday either way, and there's even a chance that they get lucky on the final week of the season where they put Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs on that Saturday like they did 2 or 3 years ago to try and lock up the 1 seed. If that game doesn't mean too much, but it means a little bit, they might give that to Saturday. So they might get lucky in that regard, but I think especially if the Chiefs lose and, even if the Ravens win and that 1 seed is out of the question, you're going to see more conservatism from the injuries. You're going to see less Josh Allen runs. You're going to see them, not play it as a preseason game, but they're going to definitely dial things down. And then week 18, you go all the way and really settle in. But Wednesday is going to be a very eventful day for people watching at home on Christmas.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Bills fans will be dialed in. I tell you what, spend time with your family, everybody. Like it's just football. You'll know what the score is. You can check it on your phone every once in a while. Enjoy Christmas. I mean, I'll check into the game occasionally, but yeah, I mean, NFL and Christmas, I'm not a huge fan. But whatever. This is how the league goes, and if the Bills do have a chance at a 1 seed, or if that's still alive, then that's what we'll talk about next week. And obviously the 1 seed would be the dream, but this is a team that can still go to the Super Bowl, even if they have to go through the 3 games. And again, just because they're not the 1 seed doesn't mean they don't get the AFC Championship at home. I mean, there's a distinct possibility to be Chiefs Ravens round 2, and that will be a bear of a game for Kansas City, even if it is at home.
Yeah.
Anything else? Go ahead.
I think if you could hypothetically say that they're going to get the 2 seed and the Chiefs and the Ravens are going to play against each other, I think I'd take that in a heartbeat right now if I'm the Bills.
I hear that argument. I would always take the 1 seed. If we're talking about whatever, I mean, you want to have that week off. You want to be able to rest everybody, not only just rest everybody, but not put guys on the line to potentially get hurt. But don't get me wrong, I'm with you. A 2 seed where it's Chiefs Ravens on the other side of the bracket would be, pretty ideal. Now, again, if we're going to play out all the scenarios, if the Chiefs win on Wednesday, that gives the Ravens the leg up to win the division. So now you'd be in a spot where if the Ravens win their last 2 and the Chiefs win on Wednesday, then you're the 2 seed and your second round game is home against Baltimore. That is the Pitts scenario. And, to me, that's more likely than even having a chance at a 1 in week 18.
We shall see.
All right. As always, you can check out Buffalo Game Day Recap at rochesterfirst.com. Click on the sports tab. We're on 8 Sports Extra. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, and we are also on YouTube. Next week, it'll be me and AJ again, hopefully from a slightly warmer, or actually a lot warmer, Highmark Stadium. I'll tell you what, man, I made it through the podcast fine. I didn't move at all, and I'm about as bundled up as I ever could be, but I did survive, so thank you for that. Thank you at home for watching and listening, and we'll see you next week.